Hello, 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 everybody. We are live today with When Miracle Speaks with your hosts, Samantha and Letitia Anderson, and our special guest, Dr. Rose Lindo. Everybody say hello.
Hi.
Hello.
So you guys know how we always do. We try to get our little social media stuff together and make sure we got it all on point. So while we're doing that, we're going to allow Dr. Rose to introduce herself and also give you a little information about her educational background and just the things that she's achieved. Because man, we about to go in. Okay. All right, Dr. Rose.
Hello, everyone. I want to thank you so much, Letitia, for inviting me on this platform. I'm super excited that you thought well of me to be on here. And
Thank
I
you for coming.
thank you. So I just want to say that my name is Dr. Rose Lindo, and I am a mother of three, and I am married to my handsome husband, Craig Lindo. Um, so, starting with a little bit about myself, I was born in Jamaica, and so I moved from Jamaica to Florida when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
I moved to Ocala, lived there for a while, and after living there for a while, moved to New York. From New York, moved back to Florida, and that is where I met my husband. And while I was working, going to school, I went to school for interior decorating.
Uh-oh. Okay,
So I went to school for interior decorating, did 4 years in Orlando College, and it was awesome. That's where I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do is interior decorating. Did that for a while. Excited about it. Um, Thereafter, I think it was back in '03 when the market crashed. So the market crashed back in '03, and I decided not to do interior decorating anymore. Got a regular job, which I worked at Walmart for a while. Then I worked my way up in management and worked with Walmart for over 16 years.
Oh, wow.
I
Yeah,
know.
worked there. It was just a job holding until, going back into decorating. But no, I stayed there for a while. It was convenient, having young kids.
Mm-hmm.
It was very easy for me to work there and raise my children. So that's what I did for a while. And after working at Walmart, uh, I think it was 2016 when my brother he passed away. He had lung cancer, and that's
Mm.
the only brother from my mother. Of course, I have 48 siblings.
Stop right there. Stop
Ouch.
right there. 'Cause- yeah, you can't just speed bump over that. Like that's major. You have 48 siblings, and we're gonna get into that because it's not like you all got the same mom. That's not it.
No,
But
no.
you all have the same dad. And so many people may not know this, but you're working on a book. Actually, you're done, but you're just in the process of getting everything done. And so this is something that you're discussing in your book because, again, 48 siblings, there's a lot of ways this can go. It's a lot of things that could not happen. That's why I had you start with like your accolades, because in spite of how your journey started, you determine how this journey going to look and how it's going to end. And
But
so let's go back to Jamaica because that's where it all started.
right,
So I don't even know where to begin. Like your childhood clearly with 48 siblings was not necessarily a normal childhood per se. It didn't look like the traditional childhood. So what was kind of different? Because we all kind of want to understand. Because everybody like, she got 48 siblings. Wait a minute, what happened? How did we get there? How did we get to this place? What was your upbringing like in Jamaica, as far as in that particular situation?
So as far as I remember probably around 5 years old. Um, I just remember going to school, and I would go to school and I would come back from school. The same kids that I went to school with was in my home, like not all of them, but most of the kids.
So your family filled the school basically.
Yeah, we did. Our family filled
Was the school?
Yeah.
because my dad had a Christian school.
Mm.
Most of the kids in the school was my siblings. So at that point, I started to ask questions. Like I would ask my mom, when are these kids ever going to go home?
Mm.
And she would never answer me. And I was a bit confused because it was a lot of kids.
Right.
There was no explanation. I just always seen these kids at my home, and then they're in school at the same time. I go to
Mm.
church with them. I couldn't figure it out,
Now,
why.
did your dad? It was your dad's Christian school.
Yes, yes, it was my dad's Christian school.
And what was his title? So everybody understand this one just a regular person. What was his title?
My dad was the bishop of the church, so it was it was his church.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that being said, trying to figure out, how did this happen? How did I have so many? Actually, I was 7 years old when I found out that all these siblings were my siblings. All these kids were my siblings.
So it wasn't until you were 7.
Pardon?
So it wasn't until you were 7 years old.
Right. I was 7 years old before I figured it out. Not really, I figured it out, but one of my sister told me that these are your siblings.
Now at 7, how many siblings? I'm sure all 40. You didn't have all 48 siblings by the time you were 7, right?
It was, I think we had like maybe 34 at that point.
Wow.
Wow.
So the year the year that I was born, it was 8 of us that was born in that same year.
Okay.
And again, you all don't have the same mom.
No,
So where are the mothers at? Like in this, while y'all are all in Jamaica, where are the mothers to the other kids?
we were all in the same home.
So it was like a sister wives situation.
I said that in my head, like this is a sister wife situation. Yeah.
Pretty much, pretty much.
But sister wives to the point to where your father was a bishop, though. He wasn't just a Joe Schmo. Like, people had to have known him. He had a congregation, right?
Right. He had a congregation. Before that, my dad was also a dentist. So um so he had, a career other than being a bishop in the church.
Mm.
So, understanding what was going on was very confusing to me.
Because it wasn't like, well, she'll be back.
Yeah.
Because technically
Confusing.
there you go. Yeah, your phone had went out. Your picture had went out a little bit, Rose. You're back though.
Oh, she probably got a notification on her phone.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like what's happening. So are you're back, Rose?
Yes, I'm back. Sorry about that.
Okay. So let's just recap this right quick. So
Yeah.
you have a total of 40, it's 48 of you guys all together.
Correct.
By the time that you were a certain age, it was at least 34 of you guys. And the year that you were born, there was 8 or 9 of you all born in that same year. So
Correct.
all the wives, not necessarily even the wives, all the mothers lived together. Your dad was a bishop, and he wasn't like, because see, a lot of times we automatically think, oh, this man just laying up and he just wanted the women to take care of him. But that wasn't your situation, because your dad was a dentist. So he had an actual career. You know, it wasn't just like y'all just all go to work and I'm just had a baby, you know, I'm just make babies. He actually had a career and he had a position. So he wasn't just like a deacon.
No,
He wasn't a lay member. He was a bishop in a church. So when you tie God into certain things, it creates a true blanket of manipulation without realizing that that's what's really happening.
exactly. So, growing up, in our community, everyone worshiped my dad. My dad was like a king. That's how high he was kind of ranked. Everyone looked up to my father. So even just my dad driving in the car, he was like a celebrity. Everyone would just to touch him was like a big deal. That's how it was.
Wow.
This
Yeah.
is in Jamaica.
Yes, in Jamaica. Yeah. So, he had a lot of people believed in my father. So, my father was very intelligent, extremely anointed, but he manipulated a lot of people, and a lot of women. And now I realize how he did it,
Hmm.
because he's God. And a lot of people, a lot of the ladies, they want to be saved, they want to know the Lord. So, it's kind of sad that he that way, but he did.
And he used his position to get what he wanted.
Exactly. Precise.
And the ignorance of other people, which simply means they're untaught, unlearned, uneducated in this particular aspect. So, in the vulnerability that they're in, because he is actually providing, because you all lived in a home, y'all had you know what I'm saying? Y'all had stuff. And so now the story shifts a little bit because all of you guys come from Jamaica to the United States, right?
Not all of us, some of us.
Okay.
Some of
Some
us.
of you guys came. So it was a group of y'all got together and y'all came with your dad over here. Now, is that when things started changing? When it started getting a little bit too, I don't know, close for comfort? Is that when it happened once you came from Jamaica to the States?
No, because while we were here, I really don't want to talk too much about the story because I still want, the book to be read. So, but when we came here, it was some of us came, but some of us, we all were still living together. We all were still living, even though we moved here, we all were living together.
So
So, not a
sorry.
lot.
My question is, because he was a bishop, and because he was so well known where you were from, and he said everyone pretty much worshipped him. He's how who you learned about God from, essentially, right? He was your teacher. He was your father.
Well, yes, I did. I did learn a lot about because what while I was in church, I was the kind of child that knew that what was going on was wrong. So while church was going on, I was like in my head, I can't wait to get out of this. I wish you would just shut up because the lifestyle that you're living doesn't match what you're preaching.
Mm.
That
So
was
as a child, these are the things that was going in my head. So, I guess I learned a lot, but I at that time I didn't think I was learning a lot. I think because you know what, it was not until I left when I really knew God for myself. I didn't know God then. I really did not. Even though I was going to church, I was going to church every week, almost 3, 4 times for the week. I was going to church. But I honestly, I didn't know God then because I wanted out of what I was in so bad that I honestly didn't know God then. Well, I didn't. But in the midst of this, I learned God because I learned to lean on Him, and I spoke to God because while I was living in the home, I used to talk to God, and I would ask Him like, did why did you choose me to be in this situation?
Mm.
Why
Gotcha.
why am I here? Like, because even though I was with a lot of my siblings, I was very alone. I felt so alone because all of my siblings, all of them had siblings except for me.
Mm.
I was the only one. My brother belonged to my brother belonged to a relationship that it was my father.
Okay.
Gotcha. Okay.
So my mother was raped at the age of 16. Mm. And I think that's what got her into this because
Mm,
she was searching for God.
Mm.
yeah. And then because of the trauma that she had went through, it led her into the wrong hands, basically.
Exactly. Exactly.
So, at what age did you realize what you were living in was just all wrong and was not of God? Because it sounds like you were pretty young, like you got that realization at a young age.
Oh yeah, I was very young. I think I think it was when I think I was 7 years old, around that. But
Wow.
even at 5, I knew I started realizing that this is all so wrong. But try to tell my other siblings was like a no because they believed in my father so much that saying this to them, it would be I would feel like an outcast. So trying to say anything about my father would so as a child I had to learn to hold my feelings myself. Don't really talk about how you feel. Talking about how you feel was a
Mm.
Mm.
no, no discussion at all about your feelings. A child does not have a voice.
So, okay, so now that you're here in the States, like in America, you guys are from Jamaica, and you have this, you feel alone because, like you say, all of them didn't come from Jamaica. Just a handful of you guys came from Jamaica together, and your dad came as well. So you guys were all still living as a family unit, and
Right.
he had because your dad had a wife,
Yes, he was married throughout all this. He was married. He
right? And she had kids. Now, how many did she have?
had 8 kids.
She had 8. Okay, so she had her set of kids, and then there was another group of women that were birthing kids as well.
Correct.
So feeling alone, because some people I don't think they understand that. It's like how she felt alone, and she got all these siblings, but it's like you said, I was the only one, you were the only one from your mother. And so, how do you tell your mom, who evidently idolizes your dad because she trusts him, that something about this is not right? You know, like this is not it. And you say you couldn't tell your other siblings because they idolize your dad. So, when did you just decide, like, because you say you went to New York. So, when did you end up in New York?
So actually, DCF was called on our home. Someone called DCF on our home. So they came out. They did the investigation. When they did the investigation, they didn't really find anything because we were even though we were in that situation, we were still being fed. That's we kept a clean home. It was almost like military. This is how we were raised. It was like military, home clean. We ate. We had no problem. So really and truly, it was more like a mental thing that we went through all this. It was more mental than physical abuse. So it was like my dad manipulating everyone, controlling everyone. And so I was 14 years old. Well, I was 13 when DCF came to the home to do the investigation. After they came, everything just seems a little bit chaotic in the home because everybody was like on high alert. They didn't know who called, um, you know. So I was wanting out. So I called my aunt. I'm trying to even, so I called my aunt and I told her that I wanted to come and visit her. But I knew in the back of my mind that once I visit my aunt, I would never go back.
Mm.
So I told my aunt, I want to come and visit you for the summer. So I told my mom, I said, Mom, I want to go visit my aunt for the summer. She's like, well, everything has to go through dad. So if whatever he says, that's what goes. So I asked him, can I go visit? He's like, no, ask your mom. It was back for about maybe 2 weeks. You asked your mom, you asked your dad, you asked your mom. It was back and forth. So I was fed up. I was like, you know what? I'll make the decision. I called my aunt. I said, told my aunt, I said, my mom and my dad says yes. I'm coming to New York to visit. She said, okay, I'll get you the ticket. So she bought me a ticket. Mind you, it never been anywhere because we were so isolated. We couldn't even play with the neighbors' kids.
Oh,
We
wow.
could, yeah, we were so that isolated so much that we couldn't even play with the neighbors. We couldn't play with our own siblings, our own brothers. The girls could play, but the boys couldn't play with the girls. But we were very isolated. So when my aunt told me she got me a bus ticket to New York, I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? I've never been anywhere. We were very sheltered. Um, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I'm going to do it. I'm getting out of here. So I would like sit at nights and try to figure out how I wanted to run away, but one of my sister that I was rooming with, like we would talk about it, like how could we get out of here? So we talk about, if we ran away, where would we go?
Mm.
And we tried to run away, meaning we would plan it out, but it didn't make sense because we were like, if we get caught and come back home, we were going to be, ostracized,
Yeah.
isolated, worse. So we were like, it doesn't make sense leaving home. And then when I talked to my aunt and she said yes, um, I'm I don't even I think my cousin dropped me to the airport. A cousin of ours dropped me not to the airport but to the bus station. So I went on the bus, went to New York, and I never went back home.
Hmm.
Let's
Yeah.
back up for a quick second. So I know that in Jamaica, your father had his congregation, he had the Christian school. What did that look like when you came to the United States? Did he just focus on being a dentist, or did he still have a church here?
Yes, he had a church, but the church was, the one in Jamaica was open to the public. But when we got here, it was just private. It was only his children and the women, his wife would go to the church. It was not anyone else. He would not open. He didn't even, we didn't even have a sign that we had a church. So no one else would church but us.
Can you even call that a church then?
Well, on paper, yeah. On
Wow.
paper, yeah,
Wow.
on paper, church, but it was just us that was because we would, meet like a regular church did.
Right.
Service was a certain time. Um, We would go through everything. We'd have a complete service.
And so there were deacons there, like there were other people there.
There were other people in the church, but they were also brainwashed. They were other like people that were they moved from Jamaica with us.
Okay.
So there
Okay.
was no there were other people, but it was like people who moved from the church in Jamaica here,
Okay.
but you would come to the church
Okay. Okay,
because there
I
was
get
no
it.
it was very isolated.
Wow. So when you get to New York, you are thinking this is it. You know, like I'm free, I'm done with it. But how does New York actually look? To like what takes place in New York where you're like, okay, maybe I don't know, I shouldn't have left or like, you know,
Well, while I was in New York, um everything was my aunt was kind of seems a little bit strange because she's probably wondering, what are you doing here? I didn't tell her. She never knew what I was going through. I was ashamed. I was so ashamed. I was 14 years old, you know. I I was ashamed of the lifestyle that I was living. So I felt like telling her, maybe she would look down on me as a person. So he started to just act kind of weird because it's like here I am in our home. There was like, why are you here? Kind of thing. And so one of my other aunts asked me to come and stay with her. I was going to school there in New York with her. She was like amazing. She treated me like her own child. Was like I felt like so loved by her. It was very weird because I was not used to being loved by anybody else except my mother. So my mom was like my, only
yeah.
person that she treated me like uh I needed to be treated. I felt loved by my mom, throughout this whole time. So when my aunt, she was giving me love, she gave me everything that I needed, you know. She would go to the store, she's like, pick whatever you want. She never limit me with anything. So, I'm so grateful for her because but that relationship, I kind of shun it because I was not used to that, you know. So, I wanted to be with my mother. So, I decided to leave New York and I came back to Orlando. Actually, I went back to Ocala, and while I was in Ocala, it was a chaos. So I went from Ocala to Orlando. I was living with one of my mother's friend. And there, actually, when I was in Ocala, I stayed with one of my mother's friends as well. But they were older couple. They
Right.
were really so a lot of things that I wanted to do, they had a strict schedule for me. You couldn't leave the house, you couldn't go here, you couldn't do this. It was just too much for me. So I decided, this, I really don't want to be here.
Now you said
So
that because you missed your mom. What was your relationship like with your father?
there was no relationship with my
Is
father. I
so many
At
siblings?
that point, go ahead.
Is that because you had so many siblings, like he just couldn't divide up his time?
um I think he was kind of upset that I left. He was not, he didn't want me to leave the home. So me leaving was not what he wanted. So the entire time I was in New York, we had no communication at all. I didn't want to have a community. I didn't want to have communication with him at that time.
Oh,
I I hated my I I really did.
did you
I
resent?
And
Did you?
that's a strong word right there, hate. And so it's like, because I know people are like, so what happened? Because there's a big, I'm trying to go around it, but there's a big elephant sitting there. Like, what did this man do? Because hate is a strong word. Like, you left because there was some stuff going on. So it's just kind of like in the midst of that, even though you had a strong hatred for your dad, right? You still had a great love for your mom. And so you wanted
right.
to go, you get what I'm saying? Because you wanted to go back, even though you weren't sure how none of this was going to play out with your dad. So it's like, how would you describe your relationship to the point to where you hate your dad? That's a strong word. Like, I ain't like my dad. I don't know if I ever got to the point of hate. That joke was, I mean, my daddy was a different breed, but he was abusive, like physically abusive. So
I
for you to get there, it's literally the question is, well, wait, how she got there? I mean, he had all these kids and he had a good job or whatever. They were living okay. What happened to where now she hate him?
well, so not only the that we had mental abuse, my father was actually sexually abusing us as children. So yes. So after that started, that's really one of the reason why I wanted the main reason why I wanted out of there.
Yeah, it wasn't just like you rolled over one day and was like, "Oh, I hate my dad." Like, that's not how it happened. Things took place because, again, he crossed the line. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, my sister my sister got raped, but she didn't tell me she got raped. So when my father wanted to get close to me, my sister was trying to guard me from him for a long time. And I couldn't figure out why why she always tell me don't go in daddy's room, and I never understood why is it that you don't want me to go in his room. And so there was a reason why she was trying to guard me from him.
Yeah. Which you
Yeah.
even suspected anything. You're just a young girl, and I'm sure, like, were you wanting to spend that time with your dad, not knowing what was going on? You just thought, oh, this is just,
Yeah, of course. Any girl would like to spend time with their dad. That's how I was. I want to be with my dad. My sister always hang out with him. She was always with him, and I was like, ooh, I thought definitely my father didn't like me,
oh,
and I had no connection to him at all. And I think it's because I had this spirit of discernment growing up as a child, that and then I had this distant I felt distant from him,
mhm.
which was a good thing because maybe he would have raped me as well. So I was so I wanted out of there. So that's when I decided. My sister said I'm leaving. She told me she was leaving. And I'm like, you're not leaving me here. I'm not you're if we're leaving together. So
Right.
she left with my aunt because we used to room together. We both had a room together. And in the book, when you read my book, you'll also there's more to this.
Like,
There's a
yeah, we
lot.
know, we understand. Yeah, we get it. Like, it's more because I'm sitting here and I'm just like, okay, like, let's take a Selah moment for a minute and let's just pause and let you exhale because I don't know if you've ever said that out loud on a platform like this that your dad was trying to, like, I know what it's like to be violated, molested, and
Right.
raped as a child, but not by my daddy. You get what I'm saying? Like, that's something that you just can't say that and
Oh,
just kind of just go over it, because even though he did all those things, right, and you had like a strong hatred for him, it's still something about it, like, that's still my daddy. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's gonna always be that that's still my daddy type of thing, even if you don't understand what it is. And so it's like I don't want to just run over that. Like, I want you to just take a minute, because even as it was coming out of your mouth, it's like I could feel like my heart started beating. Like, I knew the story, but I was just like, okay, I don't want you to say anything that you're not ready to say and that you don't feel led to say. But what I am gonna say is that you are not the only person that this has ever happened to. You are not. Your truth is helping somebody else be able to speak their truth or stand in their truth. And even it coming out, you releasing it, actually will start now to allow you to even heal even the more, right? Because more people are going to be able to connect. And because you have discernment, you're going to be able to know how much you should say and how much you should not say. Like, because again, being in that situation, it's not easy. Like, I want to just take a moment and just say thank you for being honest and being transparent. Like, for me to tell somebody that I was raped, I can do that. I was young, I was 2, I was 3, but it was not my dad. You know what I'm saying? Like, now my dad was abusive to my mama, and he was abusive to me verbally, but to actually know that your innocence was taken away from you by the very one that was supposed to protect you, that's a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot to take in. Like, I don't know about how Samantha feel, but it was just kind of like, even as you were saying it, I was just like, okay, is she ready to say it now? Like, is she ready to release it now? And I ain't mind. We was gonna go across the street, and I was like thinking, like, is she ready to release it now? And then when you said it, even in your saying it, it's like I prayed as it was coming out, God, heal her. God, make sure she's healed. God, don't bring up no old scars. Before we get off this live, we're gonna pray for closure, because I don't want nothing coming back bothering you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want you to be free, because you're writing the book. You're waiting
right.
for it to finish getting every say it again.
And the book, when I started to write the book, matter of fact, I've been writing this book for over 23
Wow. Wow. Wow.
years. Only reason I have not released the book because I was always worried about what would my family think? What would my family think? What would people think about me? You know, and God just showed me one night that what you've been through, it's not you. Your story, what you have been through, because I for years I run from it. I had so many platforms that I could really tell my story, and I ran. I've been running for 23 years, and but I felt when Letitia contacted me when we were just talking, and I felt in my spirit because God told me this is the year, and I wrote it down. Like it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I woke up one morning, I just couldn't sleep, and literally, I heard God's voice saying that this is the time. And I wrote it down. This is the time I will write my book, not write my book, but I will publish my book in this year. And, it was so weird that we were just talking and she asked me to be a part of this. I'm like, wow, God, that's how I knew that it was a God thing because he knew that I was ready. Because I was writing, I would cry, I would write a chapter, I would just sit there and I would bawl, I would cry. And I would write when my kids are in bed, when my husband has gone to bed. So we have a guest room. And in this room, I set this room up, a girl room. And I have no girls, but I set up the room as a girl would be in that room. So I set up the room, and I would write, sit I would stay up at night, I would write, and I would cry for hours. Write a chapter, cry, write a chapter, cry. Sometimes I'm crying all night. Didn't tell my husband what I was doing or my kids, but I decided, this is the way that I had to heal from this. And I'm so grateful that God gave me this opportunity to write where I can clear my heart, clear my head. And I never thought in a million years that I could talk about my story and I'm not bawling inside. Like every time I would talk about the story, like my heart would just be ripping apart. Like
Mm,
it was always want to take a knife and just stab me again, stab me again every time.
mm.
And today I am healed. I can say I am healed.
Amen.
From
Hallelujah.
That's beautiful. It's interesting, Rose, because I've noticed since we've been doing this, I can relate to each person that we've had on here as a guest. And the book that I've been writing, it took me also not that long, but it took me a little while to write, a couple of years. And I knew that it wasn't done, even though I kept saying, no, it's done, it's done. And I even had a talk with Tisha about this a couple months ago. We had a guest on, therapist Madeline Hargrove. And I had a talk with her one day because while I was writing the book, I was constantly crying while I was writing this book, just like you. And I told her, I was like, I think it's done, but she's like, well, what's holding you back? And I said, well, God told me to write the book, but I've left out certain things. And I told her the things that I left out. And it was because the same reasons. It's like, for one, embarrassment, for the ashamed of the things that I had been through, and ashamed that I allowed people to do these things to me. And I told her, I said, not only that, there's some pretty awful things that have happened to me, and I was basically covering up for these people. And Madeline gave me the best advice that was able to help me move forward with this book. She said, as long as you're protecting these people, you're still in bondage, and they still have control over you.
Mm, mm.
Those were the words that I needed to hear to be able to move forward. So as I've been updating the book, like, I don't cry anymore. There's not any tears being shed, because I know that I'm pouring it out. I'm healing, and I'm helping everyone that's going to read this book. So I just want to let you know, like, I honor you. I appreciate you and your boldness. And even this, I'm sure, is healing for you as you speak about it and as you tell your truth. Like, you truly are helping so many people out there that are watching this now and that will watch this in the future, and those that read your book, it's going to help deliver them. So I thank you for sharing your story with us tonight.
I'm grateful you all invited me. I'm excited.
So now,
I'm
I've never
excited.
after you ended up with all of this, where did you go next? Because you kind of bounced around, and you lived with your mother's friends. So where did you go from there?
So I was in Orlando. I was a nanny for a while, and the lady that I nannied her her son, and well, not son. She had two girls and a boy. And when I used to work for her, I used to work at a hotel. So I used to working in the gift shop with her. Um, while I was working for her, she said, she needed, it was like I used to manage the gift shop. It was just too much for me to do. Plus, working, watch watching the kids, doing the gift shop. It was just too much. So she said, "Okay, if you find someone to help you, they could work part time. You could work part time." So I said, "Okay, my sister. This is my sister that she was, we used to room together."
Right.
So um, so I said, "My sister." So she said, "Okay." if you get your sister, I'll be, I'll pay her rent. I would, um, pretty much, pay for all her expenses. And this lady, I'm telling you, she pretty much saved my life because she helped me to get to the point where I am now, and I'm so grateful for her. Um, her name is Layla Amarsi. I remember her name. Helped my sister and got an apartment for my sister. So then I started to live with my sister. Um, living with my sister, working at the gift shop. Then I met my husband. That's when I met my husband. Um, actually, there was two guys in the kitchen. One of them liked me. Well, both of them liked me. I didn't know my husband liked me. I thought my husband liked me as a friend. So we had that friend zone. And so I never thought of him as a boyfriend. So I was trying to hook him up with my sister, but my sister didn't like and he didn't like my sister. So I'm like, okay. But he liked me and I didn't know that he liked me. So one night I was all dressed up. We were going to the club and um the guy I was going to the club with, um we made a ring. I've never been to a club before, like literally never been to a club. So this guy said, do you want to go out tonight? I'm like, sure. Got dressed, ready, everything. While I was getting dressed, my husband called me and I'm like, where did you get my number? Like, how did you get my number? He said, well, don't worry about how I got your number. You made arrangement for me and you to go out tonight. I'm like, what? I didn't make any go out with you. Like, he's like, yes, you did. He totally lied. And so I had to call the guy. I had to call the guy that I had made originally arrangement with. This guy, he didn't have a car. I didn't have a car. So I was like, okay, how is this gonna work? The guy told me, oh, we're gonna take the bus down to Orlando. So I'm calculating. Hmm, this this guy have a car. My husband, he had a car. He was going to school. He was at the time he was a dishwasher, but he was going to school to be a cook. So I'm like, So I thought about it. Okay, this guy, he 363 a Z. I forgot the name of the car, but he had a sports car. So I did the calculation. I'm like, you know what? So I called the other guy. I said, listen, I'm sorry, but I forgot I made here we are lying, both of us lying. I forgot I forgot that I made arrangement with somebody else. So I'm so sorry I can't go with you. So I went out with my husband. We went to dinner. And the entire time this guy, he was like, oh my, he was such a gentleman. He was so nice, opened the door. The night when he left, tried to give me a kiss, but it slipped and almost caught me on my mouth. And he called me, he's apologizing. I'm so sorry. I tried to kiss you. I apologize. So I called my sister. I said, okay, this guy is a nerd, like a complete nerd. I don't know how it will work out. He's a nerd. But then I thought about it. I'm like, you know what? Maybe he's just a gentleman. So he called me back the night. He said, I'm so sorry. I apologize for trying to kiss you. And I'm like, oh my goodness. He's so sweet. I'm not used to this. So I'm like, okay, I think I'll try going out with him. And then we went out to church the following morning. So we went to church the next day. I'm like, wow, this guy is absolutely amazing. So we went. That was it.
Good
I
decision.
love it. I love it. I like how we went through all of that. and then we got to the where we needed to be, because that's what that's the miracle is, like coming out of that darkness, and
Yeah.
you're still able to live your life. You're still able, you still degree, you got your doctorate in theology, right? And so it's like you went and got a degree in decorating, and it's like you didn't allow those things that could have and tend to control us a lot of times unintentionally.
That
We succumb to those things thinking this is the life, this is what we have to, this is the only thing for me. And in spite of not just you are the miracle, but even your sister, like you coming out helped your sister come out. You know what I'm saying? Like you were able to, hey, I got this job situation, we can do this together. And then y'all still ended up living together as adults, meaning y'all had each other. You know what I'm saying? So like that whole story is beautiful. Like just the whole brightness of it, and the fact that you're able now to actually tell your story. You're able now without crying. Because I tell people that if you telling your story and you done started crying and you reliving it, yeah, you not healed from that. That it still got you. If your heart racing, if you talking about it and your mind got you all the way over there, yeah, it still got you. And it's okay. Just allow yourself the time to heal properly. Allow God to heal you. Time does heal, but God heals better. You know what I'm saying? Like when He does it, it's like you are healed for real. Like I can talk about the situations that happened to me. I have no ill will towards either one of the men. I have no ill will towards nobody, actually, because again, when you're healed, the pain of the issue is removed. The trauma of the issue is removed. Like when I think about it, I'm not reliving it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not like
I
Yeah.
never
it's
thought it
free.
Yeah. Because I don't
that
believe it heals
actually.
all. I just don't believe it. God heals.
Absolutely.
Now, Rose, with having so many siblings,
So many.
who keep in contact with any of them?
Yes, I do. I keep in contact with quite a few.
Really?
Oh yes, quite a few of them. We're very close. I am close to quite a few of my siblings. Some of my siblings are, like my sister that we were roommate at home. She's my closest sibling. She understands me. We understand each other. We are very close. And and there's a few of my siblings that, we keep in touch. I keep in touch with quite a few of them. Pretty much, all of them, I would say most of them, we're close.
Yeah.
There's two of them that we just don't see, kind of see eye to eye because of the situation. Some of them are stuck in the idea that, we are siblings. They don't they're still stuck that, listen, you know, and this is, my father's other kids, that they don't understand that you did not do this. Your dad did, you know?
Yeah.
So don't try to not deal with me or talk to me because you feel like this is confusing. This is not our fault. That's our parents' fault.
Yeah.
That brain is still got a control, got a hold of them.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a few of them that still feel, separate with our. There's a few that we just don't speak, but they have to deal with their demons, that they have to get over what happened
Right.
and
Right.
realize that they're not the one who did it. Their father is, our father is the one that had them. I didn't ask to come into this world, but I'm grateful that God saw fit that I was born, and the circumstances of how I was born was not ideal,
Right.
but in spite of everything that I have been through, I am so grateful that God chose me. Sometimes I think about, why did I have to go through this? But
Mhm.
everything that I went through helps someone. I can help someone, and I feel like I'm a stronger person.
Of course.
I feel so like The way I feel like there's nothing that's too big or too small. I feel like I can do anything. And it's because of what I've been through.
Whew.
A lot of people always, some people, they think that I'm a cocky person, or she thinks she's all that. But, they don't, some people don't even know me. They don't know what I've been through. They don't
Right.
know my heart. They don't know that I'm not a cocky person. I'm confident. I know who I am. I've been through a lot, and I'm at this stage of my life. There's certain things that I just don't put up with.
And you shouldn't. Now, my last question for you is really, what did your healing process look like?
It was hard. It was hard. It was really hard because I remember when, like, there's times when my husband would try to get sexual with me. This is the first part of our marriage, and I wouldn't even have him to touch me. And he would ask me, like, why, what's going on? And in this moment, I remember one time I just started crying, like, in the middle of us being intimate, just start crying, literally bawling, crying. And he says, hug me and say, what's going on? I couldn't tell him, but one day I prayed and I asked God to help me to open up my heart and express to him that it's not him, what I've been through. And I told him, and after I, like, literally, as soon as I told him, 50 pounds dropped off me, and I was healed. So God was just dropping layers off slowly. It took a while. It took a while. I remember one incident, like, I was telling my brother when my class, I was telling my brother, he was so angry, and we were just having a conversation, and I told him, like, I'm telling him, you need to forgive your father. You need to. And at that time, I didn't forgive my dad. I
Mm,
literally, I still hated him. I still, like, literally, he's dead. And I was like, in my heart, I knew I didn't forgive him, but I was trying to help my brother. So I was telling my brother, you need to let it go, and, let him go. And I'm counseling him. But I didn't forgive my dad. And in that moment, both of us just look at each other and we just start bawling, like crying. And God, thank you so much for just healing me in that moment, because here I am trying to console my brother, trying to help him, and knowing in my heart that I didn't forgive my father. And at that moment, I realized that I was, I forgave him for everything that he did to me, because I, he had me hostage for so many years mentally.
mm,
I hated him. I resented him. I had this heaviness. Like, I was heavy. I was always heavy. I never trusted anyone. Just didn't trust me because of what I went through. The one person that thought that trusted this way, so I didn't. So, you know, but God was able to heal me to the point where it didn't happen gradually,
mhm.
layers, layers off one, one thing at a time. I am now healed, and I think, know, when I wrote my book, I was not ready. I was not, but, God knows that I was ready, but still, like, healed. And
Your audio's going in and out.
oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's a little better.
Oh, okay.
So
So
when is your book going to be released?
I don't have a release date yet, but it's on the way.
Okay.
Yes, I am 24 is the year the book is going to release. So I'll definitely start when the book is ready. But
Yeah.
the book is up. I'm done. After the book, we are doing a movie. So
It,
I'm
praise
excited.
God.
Yes, TBN contacted me. I had the first meeting with them, and I'm excited about that. I'm
That's
so
amazing. Now, how did they hear about you?
so I am still yet to figure it out.
So it was God.
Yeah.
Someone, somewhere contacted them about my story, and I got an email from them. I don't know because I was supposed to do a TLC show. I was gonna do a TLC show, but I got scared and reneged on that.
Okay.
So I don't know if that's where, but they contacted me. They
Well, that's amazing. Congratulations.
still
You know what? So this is just the beginning for you. It's
act-
it's sky's the limit from here.
yeah, I'm ready. I'm ready. I'm
That
ready for what God has for me.
that's amazing. That's amazing. I am so honored that we're able to sit down and talk with you tonight because I feel like at this point you might be hard to get in touch with before long.
We're gonna be like, we know her, we knew her when.
And yeah,
Well, like I remember when I went to just a little bit about how I got my doctoral degree. I was going to St. Leo's University to get my MBA, right? I know we're over time, but I got to tell you this.
yeah,
So, I was going for my business degree, and I'm thinking, I already have my business degree. Why am I going to I mean, not a business degree. I already have a business. So why am I going for my MBA? But, I started going. And in the middle of going for my MBA, I was talking to a friend, and um, she told me that our local school here uh, was offering theology. So I was taking theology at St. Leo's University, but they didn't call it theology; they call it world religion. So
okay,
with I wanted to be a professor and teach theology, but they did not offer it there. You had to take world religion. World religion is totally different. So a friend of mine told me about this local school, which Dr. Benny and Dr. Renee, they are the Dr. Renee is the professor at the school, but it's Win One Ministries. That's the church that I go to, and they're the one that offered this degree. So I started there. I'm like, okay, I'll take my associates. Then I went for my bachelor. Then I went for my master's, and then I went for this friend of mine. Her name is Rita. She told me about the program. So um, I really didn't plan to go that far, but she's like, "Oh, you can do this." And I'm like, "Okay, I'll try." So I tried and I kept going, kept going. And so now I have my doctoral in theology,
wow.
which I'm so excited about because, that's one thing I had on my list is to be able to teach theology.
Yeah,
And now I have my doctoral, so now I'm super excited that I can actually teach. And
that's extraordinary accomplishment. And the thing that I hope that people really get from your story is no matter what you've been through, no matter what, it doesn't matter. As long as you put God first and as long as God is the foundation in your life, then you can do whatever your heart desires. Like nothing should stop anyone from going for what they want. The past is the past. I heard it was Miles Monroe. He said, "Let your past be your past, and that's your history, and not to let it affect you, but let it be your testimony." And that's it, because some people still allow their past to hold them back and stifle them and keep them in bondage. But I'm so glad to see that that is not what's happening with you. That's amazing.
Yes. I'm so excited about
Your audio went out.
Yeah,
I'm so excited about what God has for me. I'm excited.
That's
me
awesome.
too.
Yep.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rose, for being on here. Thank you so much for sharing your story with us. Thank you for just being so transparent, honest, and open. And literally, what is the title of your book?
Failures to triumph.
Wow, I love it. I love it. That's the testimony right there. Failure to triumph. I like that. And so once your book come out, maybe you can come back on again and we could do like a whole thing and we can have the link and everything for your book and we could do like a major thing. And there's a couple of authors that have been on here. Like I saw Simone on here earlier. She just recently released a book called Exodus. I don't know what it's before that. It's Journey to Exodus or just Exodus. So maybe you can connect with her. Her last name's Baker. So if you look in the comments, you'll see her. She just released the book. So maybe you can ask her. I don't know if she did self-publishing, but just different things like that. Because again, what you need has already been provided. The door is there. You just got to open it. You've already got the meat of it. Now you just got to figure out, okay, how I'm going to get it delivered. How I'm going to get it out there,
Right.
published and edit. We appreciate you. Thank you, all of you that have been on here. I see Sheila said, thank you for sharing your story. Many will be healed and delivered because of it. God will use it for his glory. And that's Sheila James.
Thank
Mm,
you.
amen.
Um, Charlene had said, "Oh my God, I know the feeling. I'm the only child on my mother's side, but 10 siblings on my dad's side. However, I'm the oldest, and so we're not close at all. And there's that loneliness when you were talking about that loneliness. And then Simone, Baker, I want to say she's the one. Yeah, she's the one that wrote the book, and she said, I pray that you are truly healed, my friend." And that's when you started talking about your dad, and it was you had talked about it. So yeah, like we want to thank you so much, Dr. Rose, for being on here. Thank you, Samantha, for hanging out with me again on Tuesday. Yay! And Dr. Rose, please let us know everything that's going on with TBN once you get ready to release the book and it's ready to be published. And those who do not know what Rose does, she actually does designing, like catering and everything like that. And baby, they can design some things for you. I've been to two things she's done, one for my good friend Tamika and one for my son. And I'm telling you again, it's simply beautiful. So you guys have a great rest of the week. We are excited and join us next week again for When Miracles Speak. Thank you all. Have a great day. Goodbye, Samantha. Goodbye, Walls. Bye, everybody.